After 4.5 years and over 6.5 million in Shopify print-on-demand t-shirt sales, I have learned a ton of lessons. But the most important lessons that I learned came from my first 2 stores that completely failed. So in this video, I'm going to go through exactly what happened that both of these stores completely failed, and what I learned that pushed me to the insane success that I've seen since. Print on demand is hard enough. The last thing that you want to do is miss out on this information that could save you thousands of dollars. This is my first store. As you can see, it was extremely short-lived and was only live for about a month. And this is the second store that I launched. As you can see, it ran for a little bit longer than the first store and had way more revenue than the first store, and ran for about 4 months or so. But really, it was truly like 1 month of really good sales. So what exactly did I learn from this? The first thing that I learned, and this was evident in my first store, was that I had no niche. My first store was completely built off of really just designs that I liked and designs that I probably would buy and wear, thinking, yeah, there's probably a lot of other people that would like and wear the same shirts that I would like and wear. And plot twist, there was not. I ran ads for a little bit. I ended up losing money on the store, and ultimately it was because there was no key demographic. There was no key niche. I was my customer. I was not building my store with anybody in mind besides myself. And I think a lot of people, when they're starting out, fall into this trap. And this is why we really strive and we really push to really focus on one niche. Because if we're focusing on one niche, we already know that there are plenty of buyers within that niche. And I know it's really tempting to do something super broad and get designs in every niche, and it just ends up cluttering your store and not making sense to the customers that are getting to your site. So you definitely want to be picking a solid niche, one that's big enough and broad enough, and more specifically, one that you're also interested in. There were plenty of niches that I could have selected, but ironically, I just picked different designs across a bunch of different niches that I personally liked. And it ended up being a complete and utter failure. This first store, I lost money on, period. I went in with the mindset of I'm going to take, I want to say it was probably like $2,000. I was like, I'm going to put this into designers. I'm going to get this site up. And I was fully prepared to lose that money in my ads. And I absolutely did. I lost money on the store. It did not make anything, but I learned so much from that first store. And I didn't let that monetary failure from the first store affect my second store, which leads to the second thing that I did wrong, which was no research. I absolutely did no research with the first niche. The second niche, I definitely did more, but not enough research. Doing research and selecting your niche can just be really difficult. I think a lot of people either don't spend enough time or they get stuck and they spend way too much time. And I like to really narrow it down to picking some niches that you're interested in and also doing research across whatever product you're trying to sell. Personally, I've been selling t-shirts, so I like to look across all graphic t-shirts and look at the designs that are working and get an idea of what exactly am I going to try to design anyways? Where can I get inspiration from? And I think this step is extremely important and really starts to tricking your mind in a way to start picking up on best-selling designs. And what makes it a bestseller? Is it because of the fact that the design is just so perfect for a t-shirt, or is it because it works so well within the niche that the design is selling in? These are all really important things to look at. And this was something that I didn't really do with my first or my second store. The first store absolutely had no niche, which also meant it really had no research. And the second store had a little bit of research, but again, I went a little too crazy. I just went like an Etsy vibe. I was like, oh, I'll make a mini Etsy and that'll sell. I'll have plenty of designs. I'll never run out of designs if I choose something like that. And it was okay. The second store did have one design that really took off and sold well. But again, I could just tell this was not something that was going to be long-term or something that I could really turn into a brand. Now, the third lesson that I learned along the way was having no stock can be a really big problem. And this was with that second store. So I actually got started in print on demand during 2020. Ironically, I got my LLC right before the whole world shut down. This wasn't like a COVID idea, oh, the world shut down, let me start this. I was actually planning on doing this well well before that. So got the ball rolling, got my LLC, and 2020 happened. My design on this second store just completely took off. And the color that it was on was called Tropical Blue. It was a Gildan 64,000 in the tropical blue color. And everybody wanted tropical blue. Like, we were selling so much of it that like I really couldn't even wrap my mind around it. And I was just on cloud nine. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So many people are buying this design. Finally, like, wow, print on demand really does actually work. And it was great. It was all fun and games until Printify ran out of stock. Had absolutely no stock of this tropical blue shirt anymore. And I was left with an absolute customer service nightmare. I took the color off of my site, but I then had to reach out to thousands of customers and basically say, hey, ran out of the color shirt that you want. Would you like to switch it for one of these colors, or do you want your money back? And I gave a lot of refunds back. So all the money that I really made, I ended up having to give so much of it back just because I couldn't fulfill the product. So unless somebody was like, oh, no problem, I completely understand, please change it to black or red. Yeah, I was stuck refunding a lot of customers. Now, since then, again, 2020 was this one-off, I think, issue. Nowadays, we don't really have any issue with stock, but I did learn I keep it to very simplistic colors that a lot of printers always have in stock. I don't do a lot of funky, fun colors. I keep it simple. I do white, black, navy, military green, sports gray, charcoal. That's it. It's not too exciting, and definitely learned that the hard way with this second store. But ever since, I really never had any issues. Which leads us into lesson 4, which is unhappy customers equals a very big problem. And this is what I saw with the second store. The first store, I really didn't even have enough customers to really even understand how customer service works. But I learned really fast with the second store what makes good customer service good, and really how to deal with people, and that people can be mean through emails, especially when they're emotional and upset. Probably just in general with the state of where the world was at the time. But that customer service nightmare, it really was a nightmare. Waking up, answering customer service emails, going to work my shift as a nurse, coming back after a long day and needing to respond to angry customer emails like, where's this shirt? It was basically drinking water from a fire hose when it came to my customer service on that second store. And the 5th lesson that I learned was, when a problem arises, deal with it right away. Otherwise, it's just going to snowball from there. And again, this has to do with that second store. Really, the second store, I think, was more of a failure. I made some money on it, but it was more of a failure of the way that it was run than the first store. The first store wasn't up long enough for me to learn anything. And then the second store was like a dumpster fire the whole time, that I was just putting out dumpster fire after dumpster fire. And I learned so much with that second store that it pretty much, once I closed it, I was like, honestly, any store is going to be better than what I just went through. And with the stock issue, I believed in Printify. They were we're really trying to get stock. We're looking into it. We're going to figure stuff out. We're going to talk to different printers. They really weren't trying to leave the sellers high and dry, but just with the way that 2020 was, it was limited to what people could do. So I did take that color down, but I immediately should have sent a blasted email out to everybody and just said, if you purchased this shirt, please know we are working on this. You'll absolutely get your money back. But I didn't do that. So it just ended up being people individually emailing in saying, hey, why isn't this shipped yet? What's going on? And I was trying to give it time, because I was like, oh, well, maybe there is stock somewhere, maybe somewhere, and they haven't tracked it down. It hasn't gotten to the factory yet, whatever it may be. And that just led to just a big buildup of a problem that I had to deal with later down the line. So now when I'm picking up on little customer service trends of something being out of stock or something consistently that customers aren't happy with, I like to put that into plan and keep track of all of that, so that I can start almost planning for this to become a more consistent problem and it doesn't turn into a huge snowball rolling down the hill. So I like to tackle things really immediately when they happen now. And finally, the last lesson that I learned was that I wasn't going to let all of these failures stop me. And it feels like a lot of failures. Even though they were both messes in their own special way, especially my second store, I saw how much I learned in such a short period of time and how I was able to avoid mistakes the second time around and then avoid a ton of mistakes my third time around with my third store. That's really what made the key difference in me being able to do 7 figures of sales in the first 12 months on that third store. And it just goes to show that if we persist and we continue to grow and learn, we're capable of so much more than we ever thought. I, hope these lessons don't scare anybody out of pursuing this or trying to start print on demand. I share it more of, I hope you can take some of my resilience that I had and use it for yourself and know that, hey, there's going to be issues with running any store. There are things that I don't know, and I'm not going to know them until I go through the process and learn about it. So if you're in your print-on-demand journey, give yourself some grace and take in as much information like this as possible. And if you haven't started your print-on-demand journey, but you're interested in getting started, then you want to check out this video here where I break down the easiest steps to getting your store up and running before 2025.